Any question, just look straight in the middle.
Yeah, you got it.
Thank you.
So we had a bond hearing today and a PC hearing today. I think that the relevant things that were said today that I thought were fascinating were that it took 3 months to build a case. And I think the reason for that was because the statements that were given on the evening that this occurred were very questionable. I think the way that the statements were made, what allegedly was witnessed and what wasn't witnessed, I think gave great pause to the FBI. The FBI doesn't take 3 months to arrest someone if they believe everything that was said on the night that it occurred. They were involved the first night, and then nothing happened for 3 months. In addition to that I thought was quite embarrassing was that an FBI agent says they don't have the resources to keep their eye on an individual. This is allegedly an individual that committed a crime that they then didn't watch to see if the guns were present, if the jewelry was present. And what didn't we hear today? What we didn't hear today is there is no contract, this mystery contract. They have no contract. They have no video of this alleged signing of a contract. They have no guns. They have no jewelry. They have none of that physical evidence. What they have is they have allegedly 5 individuals, one of them being a very well-known individual that is allegedly cooperating with the government and making these allegations against my client and many more.
Welcome back, YouTube. Welcome back to another episode of Bezelereviews Reactions, man. And today, man, I ran across a video, man, that just really put the pieces together to me, man. First of all, I just want to thank everybody that been supporting the channel. Definitely special shout out to you guys that been subscribing, and all of those that been supporting the website, putting in orders, and joining our mailing list as well. But yeah, today I ran across a video of PoohShiesty's lawyer speaking about the bond hearing that was held Friday. And some of the things he was saying just shed light on other facts that I wasn't sure of, but now I am sure of. And I'm going to explain this to you guys. First and foremost, I know everybody has heard about what happened between PoohShiesty and Gucci Mane. Allegedly, PoohShiesty is supposed to hold Gucci Mane and a couple of his associates against their will, force them to sign contracts. But as you just heard from the small clip I played from the lawyer, they don't have none of that evidence that they claim to have. And like the lawyer said, basically all the government has at this point is the statements from the associates and basically Gucci Mane. But this right here led me to some other research I was doing down the rabbit hole about the 1017 curse. Now, if you're familiar with the 1017 curse, that basically, first of all, 1017 is Gucci Mane's label. But the curse is basically anybody that signs to Gucci Mane's 1017 label at some point or sometime after the signing, or just after they do business with Gucci Mane, they come up either they either go to jail or they end up unalive. And in today's video, I'm going to show you guys and break down why I think that is and who I think is behind it. But before we get started, I just want to give a brief reminder about the website that I currently have launched with my family right now, and that website is The Urban Experience at www.thaturbanexperience.com, where we offer a wide variety of products, including jewelry featuring our 100% handcrafted copper, 100% pure handcrafted copper, chocolate stones, and body butter. Then y'all know we got the merch as well. Just released different colorways of hats and shirts. And last but not least, don't forget to check out the stuff that we offer for free, including Xbox Series X and PS5 games. Depending on where you live, you just may have to pay a small fee of shipping and handling, but that's all I wanted to say. That website again is www.thaturbanexperience.com. And that's the Urban Experience, man. I thank everybody who done supported us so far. And let's get back to the video. But before we get into the 1017 curse and who I think the cause of it is, we're going to give you a little backstory on Gucci's 1017 label and a little bit of the curse and some people that fell victim to it.
Gucci Mane started his first label back in 2007, and it's been clear from the jump that he should have just stuck to rapping. Almost every artist he signs either ends up dead or in jail. And today we're breaking down the wild stories behind why fans think his label, 1017, is cursed. The biggest reason everyone's talking about the 1017 curse lately is because of Enchanting's tragic death from an overdose. She was a 26-year-old artist who signed with Gucci Mane back in 2020, but after dropping some music on his 1017 label, Enchanting went independent in 2022. Apparently, Enchanting had been fighting drug addiction for a while, and a few days before she passed away, she went to her friend's house and tried to kick the addiction. Unfortunately, it didn't work out though, and on June 10th, Enchanting was rushed to the hospital because she had a heart attack caused by a drug overdose. She tragically died the next day, and Gucci hopped on social media to give his respects. But as soon as the news broke, people started talking about the 1017 curse and how Gucci's artists always end up dead or in jail. Gucci's wife, Keisha Kayor, jumped in to defend him, but there's a good reason why fans think something is wrong with Gucci's label. Back in 2007, Gucci started his first label, so YC Entertainment. Back then, Gucci didn't sign a lot of artists and was pretty much dropping his own mixtapes through the label, but he did start working with Frenchie, Waka Flocka Flame, and some producers like DJ Drama. Gucci was working with a company called Mizé Entertainment to help him run his YC label, and after a few years, Gucci closed the label because Mizé Entertainment was allegedly acting shady. According to reports, they were selling Gucci's verses and booking him on shows he never agreed to, so Gucci dropped him and moved on. The first label didn't work out, but that didn't stop Gucci from trying again. In 2010, he started 1017 Brick Squad and signed artists like Waka Flocka Flame, OJ the Juice Man, and Slim Dunkin. Gucci and Waka Flocka Flame were linking up and dropping some of the hottest trap music in the game. But it all fell apart when Gucci started beefing with Waka's mom. Waka's mom, Deborah, used to be Gucci's manager, but there were some money issues behind the scenes, and Gucci claimed that Deborah was stealing money from OJ the Juice Man and Frenchie. 1017 Brick Squad ended up falling apart over the situation, but the money drama wasn't the only issue the label had. Back in 2011, Slim Dunkin was at a studio in Atlanta getting ready to shoot a music video for Gucci Mane's track, Push Ups. Another rapper named Young Vito was at the studio that day, and something sparked a beef between him and Slim Dunkin. It's not clear exactly what happened next, but at some point, Young Vito upped his strap and tragically killed Slim Dunkin. Young Vito skated on the murder charge, but he was convicted of aggravated assault and possession of a firearm and got hit with a 25-year sentence. After it went down, Gucci rapped about Slim Dunkin and Waka Flocka Flame on the track R.I.P. Slim Dunkin and said, "Man, I miss my dunk so much, I dig his up. If I could bring his back, I would dig his up. We would rarely go to sleep, we were balling so much. BSM in 1017, Dirt Gang stand up. Remember Flocka was my goon, now he ran his mills up." Slim Dunkin wasn't the only OG on Gucci's roster who got hit with the 1017 curse though. OJ the Juice Man came up in the same apartment building as Gucci, and they were tight way before either of them started rapping. OJ and Gucci put out a lot of music together, and back in the day, OJ's mixtapes were popping off in the southern hip-hop game. Everything was cool for a while, and in 2010, OJ was even featured on XXL's freshman class, but then he started falling off and even got into a Twitter beef with Gucci. Gucci had claimed that Waka's mom was stealing money from OJ, and for some reason, OJ got pressed at Gucci over the situation and said he was never actually signed to Brick Squad. OJ and Gucci squashed the beef, but OJ's been getting hit with the 1017 curse ever since. After he fell off in the rap game, OJ allegedly went straight back into the trenches. Back in 2022, he was booked on gun and drug charges. Then in March 2024, the news broke that OJ had been arrested again. According to the police report, a cop tried to pull him over for speeding in Georgia, but OJ didn't stop at first. OJ started a little chase, but then he decided to just pull over instead of making the situation worse. Speeding and running from the cops is bad enough, but it was about to get way worse for him. When the cops searched OJ's whip, they found cocaine, other drugs, and a gun too. OJ had been sitting in jail ever since the news broke, and it don't look like he's gonna be coming home anytime soon. When Brick Squad was falling apart, Gucci started beefing with his artist Frenchie too. Frenchie is Waka Flocka's cousin, so Frenchie definitely wasn't gonna switch up on Flocka and keep rocking with Gucci Mane. Frenchie even dropped a diss track aimed at Gucci called Sometimes and rapped, "We built this company together, now you bugging out. Throw my hands on you? Nah, but I don't wanna sock you out. Yeah, you got me screaming out You don't want me to have what I have, because in my eyes, you a Gucci is the reason Frenchie even had a career, but Frenchie said that Gucci didn't want anyone in the team to win.
So if we switch from So Icy to go to Brick Squad, and you doing, like you don't want an artist to get bigger than you. That's what it is with Gucci Mane, if you notice that.
They ended up squashing the beef, and Gucci even supported Frenchie when he started his own label, but the 1017 curse hit Frenchie hard. At first, it looked like Frenchie might be good at running the label. He was allegedly the first person to discover Nicki Minaj and French Montana, so obviously Frenchie could pick artists with huge potential. Unfortunately, the label didn't work out though, and it was all downhill from there. Frenchie's career started falling off fast. Then in 2021, he barely survived getting shot in the neck. Luckily, he made it out of the situation alive, but in 2023, he got wrapped up in another wild situation. Frenchie and a bunch of other dudes broke into a family's home because they thought there was $100K worth of weed stashed there. They raided the place and even pistol whipped an autistic teenager who lived there. But it turns out, there wasn't even any weed in the crib. Frenchie was allegedly in the house when it went down and drove the getaway car too. And in 2023, he got hit with a 12-year sentence over the situation. Gucci ended up catching a gun case in 2013 and was locked up for a couple of years. But when he came back home, he announced that he was starting a new label, 1017 Eskimo Records. Gucci signed artists like Rollo, Asian Doll, and Hood Rich Pablo Juan, and at first it looked like he had everything figured out. Rollo was the first one to sign on the new label. Rollo linked up with Gucci in the club, and Gucci wanted to know if Rollo had to deal with anybody.
I was in a...
Now, basically, Rollo goes on to explain the situation that happened that landed him in trouble. And from his explanation, it wasn't even his situation. He basically was assisting somebody from 1017. But moral of the story is, he ended up going to jail too. And then the other two people that Gucci signed, which was Hood Rich Pablo Juan and Asian Doll, well, we know what happened to them. Hood Rich Pablo Juan is still in jail, and Asian Doll, well, look.
Asian Doll was the first woman who ever signed with Gucci Mane. She had already been in the game for a couple of years and dropped a few mixtapes, but signing with Gucci was definitely the biggest moment of her career. Asian Doll said that other labels had reached out and wanted to sign her, but she thought linking up with Gucci was the best decision. Asian Doll and Gucci made headlines when the deal was signed, and Asian Doll dropped a couple of mixtapes on the label. It didn't take long before issues started popping up though. A few months after she joined Gucci's label, Asian Doll said she wishes she was still independent. She told the Dallas Observer that being on the label made everything too organized and that she missed being able to drop whenever she wanted to. Before Asian Doll linked up with Gucci Mane, she had dropped 6 mixtapes in 3 years, but the label apparently
remember that
didn't
too
want her to drop
organized
that
part.
much. There's a lot of planning that goes on behind the scenes when it comes to who gets to drop and when, and Asian Doll wasn't rocking with how they were doing business. So in 2020, Asian Doll announced that she was leaving 1017. According to her, she just asked Gucci to let her out of the deal, and he said okay. It was clear that there wasn't any bad blood, but that didn't stop Asian Doll from getting hit with the 1017 curse. Right after Asian Doll left the label, she got picked up on drug charges in Georgia and had to spend a few days in jail. Then in 2022, she was arrested again. Apparently, she had been wanted by the cops for over a year for not showing up in court and for speeding without a driver's license. Asian Doll didn't have to do a lot of jail time over the situation, but her career started falling off fast, and now her new music isn't making any noise in the industry at all.
So as you can see, she went down as well. So it seems like it's a pattern with all of these artists, and not even just them, because there's a lot more artists that Gucci signed that then got into trouble that wasn't as big as these names that we familiar with, but we just don't know about. And I would shed light on that, but then that's gonna make this video super long, and it's already a little long. But if you want me to do a video on all the artists that done got hit with the 1017 curse, then let me know down in the comments. But now that you got an idea of the 1017 label, how it was formed, and some of the reasons why me and fans believe that it's a curse, now I'm gonna bring y'all to the moral of the story. One of the most recent artists that been hit with the 1017 curse happens to be Gucci's cousin, Big Scar. And there was rumors going around that when he died, people didn't like how, or PoohShiesty didn't like how Gucci treated the family. But in case you don't know about this situation, here go a little backstory on that.
His artist just died. The body wasn't even cold yet, and instead of being the stand-up OG everybody thought he was, he sent a message asking for his chain back. Not a phone call to the family checking on them, not a bag to cover the funeral, a request for the chain back. And the internet lost its mind. But here's the thing nobody's talking about. Gucci finally opened his mouth about it, and what he said It's gonna make you look at this whole situation completely differently. Because this wasn't just about a chain, fam. This was about ownership, loyalty, money, and what happens when the music industry machine keeps spinning even when somebody's dead in the ground. Because we've seen this before. We've seen labels swoop in after an artist dies and start making moves that look cold from the outside. We've seen families get left holding bills while executives count profits. But this situation, this one hit different. Because Gucci Mane wasn't some faceless corporate suit. He was supposed to be the OG, the big homie, the one who gives young kids from the hood a real shot. And that's exactly why what happened next cut so deep. Y'all need to hear this. Let me break it all the way down. All right, before we get into the drama, Big Scar, real name Alexander Woods, was a Memphis kid who came up the hard way. And when I say hard, I mean hard, gang. We're talking about a dude who survived a near-fatal car accident at 16 years old where he got thrown through a windshield. 16. Then in 2020, he got shot in the hip.
And go up into my lung, the bullet still in my lung. I'm good, I went in the hospital.
Bullet traveled all the way up to his spine, and doctors had to remove his appendix and realign his right leg just to keep him alive. This dude survived things that would have ended most people, twice, before he even blew up. And what did he do with all that pain? He put it in the music, raw, unfiltered, no cap. His debut mixtape, Big Grim Reaper, hit number 25 on the Billboard 200. His track So Icy Boys with his cousin PoohShiesty and Fujiano is what put him on the map for real. That's the record that landed him a deal with Gucci Mane's 1017 Records back in 2020. Now here's what makes this significant. Big Scar didn't just look up to Gucci Mane as a boss. He looked up to Gucci like a legend from childhood. He talked in interviews about riding around with his mama as a little kid, 12, 13 years old, listening to Gucci's music. This was his idol, his role model. And then one day he woke up and he was on the same label. That's a full circle moment. That's a dream come true type situation. Think about what that means for a second. A kid from Memphis who got thrown through a windshield, who got shot in the hip, who had every reason to give up on life. And instead of folding, he made music. He grinded. He connected with his cousin PoohShiesty. He got his shot, and the man who gave him that shot was the same man whose music kept him going when life was trying to take him out. That relationship meant something. At least on Scar's side, it meant everything. And when Gucci signed him, he gave him a chain. A 1017 chain, custom, iced out. A symbol that said, "You're part of this family now. You're one of us." In the streets, that chain carried weight. It meant protection. It meant affiliation. It meant you had a big homie with a name that echoed across the entire culture watching your back. That chain meant everything to Big Scar, and it's that same chain that would become the center of one of the most controversial moments in hip-hop in 2023. December 22nd, 2022, right before Christmas, gang. Big Scar was found unresponsive at his girlfriend's home in Memphis, Tennessee, an accidental prescription drug overdose. He was 22 years old. 22! The hip-hop world went into shock. Gucci Mane himself posted a tribute. Long live Big Scar. The internet flooded with love. Artists posted, fans mourned. It felt like one of those moments where the whole culture just stops. But that's just the beginning. Because while everybody was grieving publicly, while the candles were being lit and the tributes were being posted, something else was happening behind the scenes. Something that would flip the narrative completely. Big Scar's family was dealing with the logistics of burying their son, a $60,000 funeral in Memphis, Tennessee. And according to people close to the situation, Gucci Mane had promised to cover the funeral costs. Now think about what that promise means to a family in the middle of the worst moment of their lives. They just lost their son, their brother, their blood, and the man who was supposed to be the big homie, the label boss, the OG who looked out. He told them, don't worry about it. He had it. That kind of promise doesn't just mean money to a grieving family. It means somebody is in your corner. It means you're not alone. That promise is where this whole thing unravels. January 8th, 2023, barely 2 weeks after Big Scar passed, and Memphis rapper Quez Ruthless, Scar's brother, went on Instagram Live and just aired everything out. No filter, no warning, just raw pain turned into public accusation. The minute them folk called your phone to see if you was gonna pay for the funeral, you blocked them. Blocked. Quez went in, fam. He said Gucci promised the family he'd cover the funeral, then ghosted them when they tried to follow up. And the reason Gucci allegedly gave for why he couldn't pay? Because his wife Keisha Kaoir's birthday was coming up. His wife's birthday. Gang, I need y'all to sit with that for a second. Your signed artist, a kid you watched grow up into a star, a dude who survived getting shot and thrown through a windshield just to make it to your label, just died. And the reason you can't cover his funeral is because your wife's birthday is approaching? That alone had the internet ready to go to war. But Quez wasn't done, because here's where it gets crazy. He also revealed that Gucci had sent a message to the family asking for the 1017 chain back. The chain Big Scar was given when he signed, the chain that was now sitting with his family after his death. Gucci wanted it back. And when he said that, the comment section exploded. Big Scar's sister, Alexandra Woods, jumped on immediately and co-signed everything her brother said. She posted, "He asked for the chains back and no, he not getting them hoes back." And then she doubled down. "Get it back in blood. My brother earned this." She posted a photo of herself wearing the chain on Instagram for the whole internet to see. That was a statement. That was a message. That was her saying, "Come and get it then." The streets had a verdict before Gucci even opened his mouth. Now here's where people started connecting the dots, because this situation was more complicated than it looked from the outside. The very next day, Gucci's team issued a statement to XXL. Short, direct. This information is incorrect. Gucci Mane paid $20,000 directly to the funeral home for Scar's funeral. $20,000. Sent directly to NJ Ford and Sons Funeral Home in Memphis, Tennessee. And then Keisha Kawar, Gucci's wife, came through with the receipts. Literally, she posted screenshots of 2 separate $10,000 payments on her Instagram. One from Gucci, one from Atlantic Records. She captioned it, "Leave my husband alone. He did this out of the goodness of his heart. We also sent flowers and not even a thank you." Now here's where it gets layered, gang, because even after the receipts dropped, Alexandra Woods, Scar's sister, acknowledged the money. She said, "Yeah, Gucci sent $10,000, Atlantic sent $10,000, but the funeral cost $60,000 total." "What is 10K to 60, she said. "Gucci ain't helped with SHIESTY." So now we've got two truths existing at the same time. Gucci did pay something, but the family felt it wasn't enough, and nobody covered the full $60,000 that was owed. Here's what people weren't saying loudly enough though. Atlantic Records, the major label that was actually distributing 1017's music and directly profiting off Big Scar's catalog, sent the same amount as Gucci, $10,000. Atlantic Records, one of the biggest music corporations on the planet, sent $10,000 for a funeral of an artist they were actively making money from, and somehow Gucci was the only one catching heat publicly. That's
the dilemma between Big Scar and Gucci Mane, and how that little controversy got started. And after that, Big Scar's father came out and confirmed that Gucci did send money through. But that's what brings us to part of the next event. The fact that fans were saying that PoohShiesty didn't appreciate how Gucci treated the funeral as well. Now we don't know if that is true, but some people are saying that his actions from what they just did to Gucci Mane allegedly is part of the reason why they did that. Now if you're unfamiliar about what I'm referring to the recent robbery on Gucci Mane. Now allegedly PoohShiesty is sitting in custody by the FBI or the American government behind this alleged crime. And there's so much speculation about this case. One of the main things was the Gucci Mane tell. And if you haven't seen the video that I made on my TikTok, then I basically proven the facts from the paperwork of the charges against PoohShiesty, proving that Gucci Mane actually made statements, multiple statements. Now I find that crazy anyway, because Gucci Mane supposed to be a street nigga. Now I know he a businessman, people talking about he a CEO and this, that, and the third, but still, if you want to have the image of a street rapper for the credibility of your music, so that can sell more, then you need to maintain your street image. And this is not doing that, because I feel as though, like, bro, you had an undercover with you. You didn't even have to say nothing, bro. The undercover could have told everything that you needed him to tell, for real, because he's already a cop. So something is already just not sitting right with this case. And until we unravel the full details, we won't know what's really going on. But I ran across a clip today on TikTok from released by PoohShiesty's lawyer, and it was just astounding in some of the facts that he was stating in this video. And one of the things that I noticed that he said was the fact that he said they didn't have no physical evidence against PoohShiesty. And I done heard that they didn't have video evidence, and I done heard they didn't have all type of physical evidence, but the lawyer stated throughout his own mouth over the course of 3 months they haven't obtained any hard evidence against PoohShiesty. And he also said the only evidence that they do have is basically the statements that Gucci Man made. And what was crazy to me was the fact that he said he made this statement against my client and others. So I was like, others? So I just started thinking about, oh, maybe he talking about the other people that went to jail behind the 1017 purse. And to me, to be honest with you, I think it's Keisha K.O. making him do everything. But let's go ahead and watch the clip of the lawyer.
You tell me when you guys are ready. Ready?
Would you say your name first real quick?
Yeah, Bradford Cohen, C-O-H-E-N, Sam Zengane, and John Helms.
And any questions, just look straight in the middle.
Yeah, you got it.
Thank you.
So we had a bond hearing today and a PC hearing today. I think that the relevant things that were said today that I thought were fascinating were that it took 3 months to build a case. And I think the reason for that was because the statements that were given on the evening that this occurred were very questionable. I think the way that the statements were made, what allegedly was witnessed and what wasn't witnessed, I think gave great pause to the FBI. The FBI doesn't take 3 months to arrest someone if they believe everything that was said on the night that it occurred. They were involved the first night, and then nothing happened for 3 months. In addition to that I thought was quite embarrassing was that an FBI agent says they don't have the resources to keep their eye on an individual. This is allegedly an individual that committed a crime that they then didn't watch to see if the guns were present, if the jewelry was present. And what didn't we hear today? What we didn't hear today is there is no contract, this mystery contract. They have no contract. They have no video of this alleged signing of a contract. They have no guns. They have no jewelry. They have none of that physical evidence. What they have is they have allegedly 5 individuals, one of them being a very well-known individual that is allegedly cooperating with the government and making these allegations against my client and many more. I'm going to take like 1 or 2 questions and then we're going to scoot.
You're essentially arguing they've got only a he said kind of case, no evidence.
Correct.
Is that fair?
Yeah, it's very fair. I think that this is it's a he said type of a case. I mean, obviously there's 5 individuals on one side. What we're missing are the other people that were present in the room, right? The owner of the studio who says he didn't hear anything or see anything. The way they leave the studio where no one is in concert with anybody else, no one's arguing with anyone else. One of the individuals says, "Hey, can I get my watches back?" Like, the story is quite unusual, and I think that the FBI knew that. I think the investigators knew that it was unusual, and I think that's why it took so long to make the arrest.
What is your response to the judge saying that your client still violated the terms of his ankle monitor location?
Sure, those are all things that are going to be, flushed out. The fact is that he was allowed to be in certain areas at certain times. That really wasn't an argument for today. I wasn't really even going to make that argument. My main thrust of today was to really push on the evidence and see exactly what they had and when they had. How about the individual who wrote the complaint, who actually drafted the complaint, who was sitting in the courtroom, who's only been an FBI agent for 4 years, does not take the stand. They put someone else on to say what she wrote in her own complaint when she's sitting in the courtroom. And that's done quite often in gamesmanship, because they don't want to put a rookie on the stand and be measured by our legal team. Oh, who knows? We're going to get discovery. We'll take a look at their discovery. They're going to say it's ongoing. I mean, think about it. They had 3 months to get this stuff. They had 3 months to get warrants. They didn't get warrants that night. They didn't get warrants the next night. They didn't get warrants the next month. They didn't get warrants the month after. They waited 3 months to get warrants on whether or not there's guns, whether or not there's jewelry. How about their cell phones? How about the computers? that gives me great pause when I see a case that takes that long to get warrants, if you believe everything that was said on the evening that it occurs.
Does that have a path out of jail?
Yeah, hold on, let me take one from her because she was trying last time.
Can you say anything about the identity of RD, and then you also spoke about a social media post?
Correct. So, listen, I don't like when the government puts initials in and everyone takes a guess who they are. We all know who they are, right? I'm not going to say it's this person or that person. That's not my job to do. But certainly there have been media posts of individuals that we suspect were involved in that evening where they're denying that it occurred, or they're denying that they're giving statements to the government. I think that's unusual as well, because of what the government put forward today seems to negate those statements, but we'll have to see how this all shakes out. Listen, guys, Sam and I have had many cases together, right? We just finished a case a couple of years ago in San Francisco on the Cash App murder case. And whenever I talk to individuals, whenever I talk to media, I always say this is not a straight road. It's always a very winding road. So we never know where things are going to take us. We got to look at the evidence as it comes in, and we'll see what's there. I'm just shocked that, you know, when they say there might be video out there, they don't have it. There might be this mystery contract, they don't have it. Oh, they were at Staples, you know, making copies. It's just a total guess. So, like, we're not here to guess. I'm here to look at the evidence, to weigh the evidence, and to make the best decision based on that evidence.
What your client just stays in detention until what?
Yeah, currently he'll stay in detention. We'll get discovery. We'll start going through that. There's going to be several motions that we're going to file, obviously, in the next couple of weeks, but that'll all come out, and we'll give copies to everybody.
So did the feds even interview?
Look at my man.
Did the feds even interview any of the people yet? Any of the alleged victims?
So my understanding is the FBI has, over the past 3 or 4 months, has interviewed none of the alleged victims, and allegedly they all have future dates to give statements, but I have no idea.
So out of everything we've seen so far, it's just looking like Gucci signs artists. They don't agree with how they working, or they don't agree with their work ethic or the way they work. So they end up having a dispute. Then sometime shortly after, the label leaves, the artist leaves the label, and then the curse hits. And that's a little odd, because I would find it more normal if the curse would hit while they were still on the label. But the fact that they be affected by the 1017 curse after they leave the label leaves me to believe that it's not nothing so much as divine, but a human influence. And if you don't get where I'm going at by now, man, Gucci, man, is doing this to his artists. And to take it a step further, I even think that it's not just Gucci, man. I think it's his wife, Keisha K.O. as well. And the reason why I say that, because it's a lot of speculation that Gucci, man, isn't even in control of his own endeavors and affairs. They say she handled everything from this man getting dressed to him taking a bath. She made every decision for every step of his life. And I know a lot of people gonna say, oh, she just love him, blah. I'm not trying to hear that, bro. You feel what I'm saying? Bro, that's a handler. But if you still don't believe me, and the thousands of other people that believe the same thing, hear from Gucci Mane's former producer. What I'm about to play is the testimony from the person who used to record Gucci Mane before he went to prison and made this big change. He used to record the raw Gucci, you know, the bigger Gucci, the real Gucci. Because I, for one, definitely don't believe that this is the same person. I used to love Gucci music, and to be honest with you, I don't even listen to his shit no more. But like I said, if you don't believe it from me, hear it from this person. Now, they don't make their identity known for specific reasons, but I, for one, can tell that a lot of these recalled events is true. And they got a disclaimer up here for, you know, for things not being stricken, because when you put certain information out here, YouTube will strike you. And it don't even be YouTube all the time. It be the people that you talking about and referring to. They be the ones putting pressure on YouTube to issue you a strike. So that's why a lot of people put disclaimers up here if you ain't already know. But that don't mean that the events is not true all the time. But we already about 35 minutes, so I'm going to stop talking and I'm going to do something that we haven't done on this channel so far. I'm going to just let the rest of this video play. And I'm going to holler at y'all briefly at the end. But if it's too long, then I'll just see y'all next video. Because it's already look like it's about to be an hour or something. So, yeah, like I said, I'm going to just let this video play. And then I'm going to holler at y'all on the next video. But yeah, I want to thank everybody for watching. You know what I'm saying? If you like the content so far, please subscribe to the channel. Don't forget to hit the notification bell. That way you can be notified as soon as I upload a new video. Also, thank you for everybody that been supporting the website, www.urbanspringers.com. I love y'all, man, and thank you for watching.
Sometimes the industry doesn't change you. It replaces you. They said Gucci Mane wasn't really Gucci Mane, that the man who walked out of prison was someone else wearing his face. A body reconstructed, voice rehearsed, mind rewritten. They said his wife was his handler, not his heart. And if you were in the room when he spoke, you'd believe it too. I was. I produced his sessions before he went in and after he came out. The difference wasn't growth, it was deletion. The rhythm was perfect, but the soul was gone, like someone had scrubbed him clean from the inside. The night I realized what really happened in that studio, I stopped sleeping. Because the truth isn't that Gucci changed, it's that he never came back. Sometimes, producing for rappers in Atlanta feels less like music and more like managing storms. Every studio night is its own weather system. Smoke clouds, late arrivals, pockets full of chaos that somehow turn into chart toppers. I've worked with enough artists to know that madness and magic usually arrive in the same car. You don't stop the storm, you mic it properly and pray it gives you something worth saving. The first thing I learned as a producer wasn't EQ or compression. It was how to read a room. You had to know when to push, when to fall silent, when a rapper was about to explode into genius or violence. In this city, creativity's currency is chaos, and we get paid to capture it before it burns itself out. Gucci Mane was chaos personified. When I first worked with him, around 2010, he moved through Patchwork Studios like a man haunted by sound. He'd record a verse, then wipe it, then re-record it twice as fast, then tell me the second version was for the next life. Nobody could keep up. He'd pace barefoot across the booth, sweat dripping from his temples, mumbling lines like he was decoding radio frequencies only he could hear. People said he was manic, dangerous, unstable. I never saw that. I saw someone fighting to stay human in a business that eats people whole. There was calm inside his chaos, a rhythm underneath all that noise. It was like watching a man wrestle his own reflection and somehow make it rhyme. One night he stopped mid-take and stared straight at me through the glass. "You ever notice how the booth feel alive?" he asked. I laughed it off, but he kept going. "It listens, bruh. The booth listens. That's why I don't trust playback." He had these moments. Quick flashes where the room went cold, like he'd stepped too close to a truth the rest of us weren't ready to hear. Then he'd crack a smile, grab a blunt, and jump back into a verse like nothing happened. That was Gucci before the fall. Unpredictable, brilliant, completely human. The last time we recorded before he went in, he was working on a track he called Reflection Don't Lie. The beat was stripped down, slow 808s, low piano loop, nothing fancy. He wanted it empty, he said, so you can hear the words hit the wall. Halfway through the session, he stopped rapping and whispered, "They trying to take my frequency, bro." I told him to rest. He said, "Nah, you don't get it. Once they take the sound, they take you." That night he left without finishing the verse. I found the project later, vocals cut off mid-line, mic still hot, like he'd vanished mid-sentence. I labeled the file GUCCI_LAST_REAL.WAV. When the news broke about his arrest, nobody in the studio was shocked. We'd seen the spiral, the drugs, the paranoia, the online meltdowns. Still, when the mugshot hit the internet, I felt a strange emptiness. Not sadness, exactly. More like silence after a long mixdown, when the music stops and all you hear is the hum of machines. He was sentenced, disappeared into the system, and the world kept spinning. New artists came through. Same booth, same mic, different voices. But every time I tracked a session, I'd glance at that saved project on my desktop. Reflection don't lie. Something about that unfinished take felt wrong, like it was still listening, just waiting for him to return. 3 years passed. Then one morning, a text lit up my phone from a number I didn't recognize. "You still at Patchwork?" Gucci back. "Need you tonight." I read it twice. For a second, I didn't know how to feel. Excitement, maybe relief. Everybody loves a comeback story. They said he'd been clean, married, sober, transformed. The internet called it the new Gucci, like a brand relaunch. I scrolled through his photos, chiseled jawline, clear eyes, abs, glowing skin. Same tattoos, same smile. But something in the eyes felt off. It wasn't what was there. It was what wasn't. The old Gucci's stare had this flicker, like a light bulb fighting for voltage. The new one's eyes looked still, too still. Still, I told myself he'd grown. People change. Maybe prison saved him. That night, the studio smelled like disinfectant and lemon polish. Not smoke, not sweat. Too clean. I set up the mic, loaded a few beats. When the door opened, I froze. He walked in wearing designer joggers, no jewelry, no entourage, just him and his wife. Keisha. She smiled like a manager, not a spouse. Clipboard in hand, Bluetooth in her ear. Gucci nodded once. "Good to see you, fam." The voice hit me like a memory recorded through a different speaker. Same tone, same accent, but hollowed. Every syllable precise, every breath measured. The old Gucci had rhythm in his chaos. This one had control in his silence. Kesha sat near the console, arms folded, eyes never leaving him. When I hit record, he rapped flawlessly. No ad-libs, no retakes, no jokes, just perfect timing. Too perfect. At one point, I muted the beat to check the mic levels. He kept rapping, didn't even notice. His mouth moved to a rhythm only he could hear. Kesha caught my glance and said softly, "Don't stop him." He has to finish the cycle. The words stuck to my ribs. When the session ended, Gucci wiped his forehead with a towel and smiled. But when he left the booth, the air didn't shift. The room still felt full, like the sound hadn't stopped. Kesha thanked me, shook my hand, and whispered, "He's better now. Don't bring up the past. It confuses him." That night, I sat alone in the control room, staring at the waveform of his new track. The pattern was too perfect. Each verse hit the same decibel peaks, same breath spacing, like someone had studied him down to the inhale. Out of curiosity, I opened the old file. Reflection don't lie. When I aligned the waveforms, they matched. Frame for frame, breath for breath. 2 voices, 1 ghost. I leaned back, the monitors humming softly, and realized something no one online would ever believe. They said prison changed him. They said love saved him. They said sobriety made him new. They were right, but not in the way they thought. I'd seen transformation before. Artists reinvent themselves all the time. But this wasn't transformation. This was replacement. And as the hum of the booth settled into silence, I finally understood what Gucci meant that night before prison. They didn't take his sound. They took him. I came back a few weeks after his first post-prison session, and the building had a new quiet to it, like someone had turned the city down a notch at the fuse box. The front glass was spotless. The hallway carpet didn't crunch from old snack crumbs. Even the control room smelled wrong. Citrus cleaner, where there used to be cologne, smoke, and fried chicken at 3 a.m. The LEDs over the preamps blinked in steady rhythm, each light the same distance from the next. I used to love that sound, the low machine hum that tells you music is close. Now it felt like a hospital monitor waiting for something to flatline. Sessions started on time. They ended on time. Someone had written a new rule on the whiteboard by the booth. Silence between takes. I stared at that sentence for a long minute, trying to remember when silence ever made a great record in this city. They arrived together. They always did now. He entered first, slim, shoulders squared, shades on, though it was midnight. His beard line looked like it had been measured with a ruler. His smile was polite and brief, like a hotel greeting, there and gone. Keisha followed half a step behind, not touching him but close enough to catch a breath before he took it. Clipboard tucked under her arm, phone already unlocked in her palm. She didn't look at the room, she assessed it. Lights, temperature, chair position, pop filter angle. Dim the booth 2 points, she said. He regulates better that way. Good to see you, I told him. You as well, he said. The words landed in even beats. No slur, no slide, no throwaway ad-lib. 2 seconds, exactly. He extended a hand. The grip was firm and quick. 1, 2, release. The old Gucci would have pulled me into a side hug, laughed, talked trash about the last take, asked for something ignorant at 160 beats per minute. This version didn't even look toward the snack table. He didn't ask for water. Kesha set 2 capsules beside the console instead. For focus, she murmured, like we were in a clinic. He took them without looking. I loaded a beat. He stepped into the booth, set his feet shoulder width apart, and lifted the headphones with the care of someone handling lab equipment. I hit record. He delivered the verse in a single pass. No false starts, no punch-ins, no muttered rewrites under his breath. The syllables fell into place as if someone had pre-scored the bar lines in the air. It was good. It was sharp. It was everything a label loves to hear. And it was wrong. I didn't realize how much I missed the mess until it was gone. Old Gucci lived inside bars like they were hallways, kicking doors, checking rooms, knocking pictures, crooked as he passed. He'd start a line too early, then ride it like a wave and land dead on the snare. He'd laugh mid-take and somehow the laugh became part of the rhyme. There was danger in it. Life. The booth had felt alive because a living person was inside it. Now the room felt obedient. Great, Kesha said, eyes on a metronome app that pulsed quietly against her screen. Again. He did it again. Exact same breaths, exact same consonants. The same smile after line 4 that looked like it had been written into the verse. I slid the tempo up a single click mid-take. He adjusted without breaking cadence, as if his voice were chasing a grid only he could see. When I stopped the recording and muted the beat to check levels, he kept going. His lips moved for 2 more bars in perfect time to silence. I glanced at Kesha. She didn't blink. Don't interrupt his cycle, she said softly. It makes him nauseous. Cycle. That word again. Like we were tuning a machine, not cutting a record. I tried to make it feel normal. When he stepped out, I asked about an old inside joke from a 2010 session, the night we tried to see who could stack the most ad-libs before the take collapsed. He looked at me for a long second, not confused, not remembering. Loading. Then he repeated the punchline perfectly, the same wording, the same order of words, without the laugh. No wink, no grin, no shoulder bump like we used to do. He delivered a memory like a script. The room went colder than the AC could explain. Kesha never left his side, 6 feet, give or take. She handled everything that didn't involve opening his mouth to rap. Schedule, stems, food, posts, replies. When he answered a question, his eyes flicked to her first, like he needed permission to shape the sentence. If I said, remember, she stepped in with a smooth, practiced smile. We don't dwell on the past. It agitates him. Okay, I said. and something inside me folded in on itself. Between takes, he hummed. Not a tune, a note. The same pitch every time, held for exactly 3 seconds, released on a measured breath. I reached for the talkback to ask if he wanted a different headphone mix, but Kesha gave the smallest shake of her head. I took my finger off the button and let the note hang in the air like a warning you only hear if you've learned the code. I booked the room for a Tuesday. Quiet night, fewer eyes, fewer questions. I told the manager I needed a room from 9 to midnight. No runners, no interns, no drop-ins. I brought my own cables. I cleaned the console myself. I set the mic exactly where it had always stood for him before prison. 1 inch under lip height, slight tilt, the pop filter at a distance that forced him to lean into it when the truth started burning. I dimmed the booth to the color of late memory and killed the decorative LEDs that made everything look like a commercial. Then I did something petty and maybe cruel. I pulled up the old session folder and rebuilt the Reflection Don't Lie chain from scratch. Same preamp gain, same compressor ratio, same plate reverb barely breathing at the edges. I even imported the exact room tone from 2010, a minute of nothing I'd recorded years ago to use as glue between takes. When I played it under a silent channel, I could almost hear the boys laughing again, the careless noise that made the music feel alive. He texted at 8:52 p.m. On the way. At 8:59, the lobby doors clicked. 2 shadows slid down the hall as one, him in front, her half a step behind, the same invisible wire between them that I'd started to feel in my jaw at night. Evening, Kesha said, a professional warmth that never rose above room temperature. We'll do 3, maybe 4. Let's do something different tonight, I told them and forced a smile. I want to hear him alone, just him and the mic. Her eyes never moved from mine, but I watched her fingers tighten on the clipboard. He performs best with support. I'll be right there, I said, tapping the talkback. No one else needs to be. When I'm in the booth, she said, he maintains tone. I looked at him. You remember when we cut Heavy Smoke? I asked. You told me you didn't need a hype man because the truth was loud enough. His mouth twitched. It wasn't a smile, but it knew where a smile lived. He glanced at her, then back to me. It's all right, he said softly. I can do this. No, she said just as softly. You can't. Silence felt like a sharp object in my hands. I set it down gently. 2 takes, I offered. No risk. We'll see how his levels are solo. Then you can go in. She measured the room with her breath. 2, she repeated, like an agreement that had already been written somewhere. We settled into positions. Me at the console, him in the booth, her in the producer's chair just behind me. Close enough to reach for the talkback button with a wrist flick. Headphones okay? I asked. He nodded. No humming this time, no ritual note. It made the room feel underdressed. I loaded the beat. Not the new clean ones, an older loop built on a dirty piano, naked 808, and a hi-hat pattern that tripped every 4th bar like a man catching his foot on a crooked floorboard. I wanted friction. I wanted him to have to catch himself. Rolling, I said, and pressed record. He started like a machine starts, breath exact, entry on the 1, consonants tucked, syllables aligned like soldiers. The grid loved him. The grid clapped for him. But there was no swing on the tail, no heat on the corners, no scrape of a human stumbling into a better bar. If you've ever watched someone pretend not to cry, you know that kind of stillness. It's impressive. It's also unbearable. Kesha leaned forward and pressed the talkback. Protect the brand, she said. Her voice came through his headphones with a mother's calm and a manager's math. Minimal improv, no unverified anecdotes, no past tense self-references. He blinked. His left hand, which had always talked when he rapped, hung useless and quiet at his side. Again, I said, forcing cheer, and looped him back 2 bars. He landed. He always landed. Protect the brand, Kesha repeated, thumb resting on the button like a metronome with skin. The old you is over. I don't know why I said what I said then. Maybe I wanted to hurt the room. Maybe I wanted to cut the wire I couldn't see. I nudged the fader up on a low bus no one else knew about and let a ghost of 2010 air whisper under the track. Laughs, a chair creak, somebody off mic saying, "You wild," a lighter flick.
If you have...
I watched him through the glass when it hit. Something changed in his shoulders. He stuttered, not on the words, but in the space between them, like a foot remembering a crack in the sidewalk. His mouth tightened, and then, on the next line, he didn't tuck the S, he let it spray. It was small, and it was everything. "Hold," Kesha said, but she didn't hit the button in time. He laid 3 more passes. They stacked like glass panes, clear, identical, without a scratch. I didn't have to comp anything. There was nothing to fix. It was the kind of session you dream about when you're on a deadline and you haven't slept in 2 days. I hated it. When they finally stepped out for a break, I pulled up an old file for sanity. The freestyle from 2010 where the room felt like a tailgate inside a thunderstorm. Laughter bleeding into the mic. A friend yelling something dumb off camera, his voice stretching, cracking, recovering. I let it run for a minute, eyes closed, and remembered why I ever loved this work. I cut the playback and soloed the raw mic from tonight. In the noise floor, past the air and the coil buzz, something spoke, not a full word, more like a shape of a word pressed into the hiss. I turned the gain a hair. It became a sentence broken by the static, a voice not quite his. "Stay, tone, he's listening." I dropped the volume and felt my own heart in my wrists. It was nothing. It had to be nothing. Old wiring, a circuit choke, a ghost in the machine. I saved the file anyway. They came back in. He finished the second song in 2 takes. We packed up. On the way out, I tried one more normal question. "You feeling good? Want to push one more?" He looked at Kesha. She nodded. He said, "I feel optimal." The word hit my ears and just lay there. It wasn't a human answer. It was a readout. When they left, the hallway swallowed the little sound they made. I watched them from the glass, 2 silhouettes sliding down the corridor, one slightly delayed in the reflection as the other turned the corner. I blinked. The lag disappeared. The glass gave me my own face back, pale blue from the screen. I should have gone home. Instead, I opened a session I'd made for myself called Mirrors and dragged tonight's main take onto the grid. Then I dug up a pre-prison verse with the same BPM, same topic, same pocket. I lined them up and let the DAW do what it was built to do, breath for breath, sibilant for sibilant, a lowercase landing on the exact same waveform. When I nudged the new take 2 milliseconds forward, the old one ghosted under it like a shadow learning to stand. When I inverted the phase and hit play, the lead disappeared almost completely, like one voice canceling the other out, a mask on a map. I sat back and let the monitors buzz. My hands were shaking and I couldn't blame the caffeine. I told myself, sobriety does this. Work ethic does this. Maturity does this. But the part of me that learned to read rooms, the part that trusted feeling before data, kept whispering no. I closed everything and shut down the lights, but the booth didn't go dark right away. A flicker lived in the glass, 2 frames fighting for the same space. In one, he grinned at me across a decade, eyes loud, shoulders loose. In the other, he stared forward, calm as a cuffed hand. The flicker stopped. The room was empty again. On my way out, the night guard nodded. "Late one, huh?" "Yeah," I said. My voice sounded like I was listening to it through a door. Outside, the city breathed and the highway sang, and somewhere a train complained at its own weight. I stood in the parking lot with my keys in my hand and realized the feeling that had been nagging me all night had a shape now. Not fear, not awe, a strange double thing, surprised and not surprised. Stunned to see the difference, and somehow ready for it. Like the truth had been rehearsing me too. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. 1 line of text. "Stop aligning ghosts." I looked back at the studio windows. For a heartbeat, the control room glass returned a picture that didn't match. Gucci still in the booth. head tilted, eyes on me through the pane. The booth behind him was empty. I blinked, and it was just glass. The man who once filled rooms with noise now left silence trailing behind him, and somehow the silence was louder. I went home, but I didn't sleep. Tomorrow I'd dig. I'd find where the change began and what it cost. Because somewhere between the verse we saved and the man who walked back through that door, something else learned how to be him. And it was starting to learn me too. He hit the next bar late on purpose, dragging the beat just long enough to find himself again. The grin that followed looked like it had seen God. He leaned closer to the mic, breath fogging the pop filter, and dropped a crooked ad-lib, the kind that made you believe a man even when he lied. "Stop," Kesha said, calm and lethal. "Protect the brand." "From what?" he asked. Not to her, but to the room that remembered him. I killed the click track, let the air breathe, then pushed harder. "You remember Reflection Don't Lie? You said they were trying to take your frequency." He closed his eyes, and for a second his polite face slipped sideways. The man I knew was back, raw, cracked, alive. "I said that?" he whispered. "Cycle break," Kesha snapped, moving toward the door. I muted her channel. "Run it again," I told him. He started rapping like he was tearing skin. Words bled, laughter escaped. The booth pulsed with heat and memory. Then she was suddenly inside the booth. No door opened. "Enough," she said. He froze. The light dimmed. She took his hand. Session complete. When they left, the silence still breathed, like the room had learned how to miss him. The email arrived before sunrise. Subject: employment termination, confidential complaint. No sender, no reason, just effective immediately. I read it 3 times, waiting for sense to form. It didn't. When I called the studio, the assistant said, "It came from higher up. Workplace concern." She couldn't say who filed it. "Concern about what?" I asked. "Your behavior during client sessions." That word, client, hurt more than fired. It meant he wasn't a man anymore. He was property. By noon, my badge stopped working. Security walked me out like we were discussing the weather. Through the glass, the new intern cleaned the mic like a holy object. I called him, voicemail. I called her, number changed. By nightfall, my contacts vanished. Texts left on read. 2 studios said, "Management advised we can't book you." Another claimed I'd interfered with an artist's mental health protocol. For days, I replayed his last session, the moment his real voice cracked through the calm. The sound both haunted and proved me. Then came the knock. 2 short, 1 long. Nobody there. Just an envelope. "You are prohibited from contacting clients." A note scrawled at the top. "This is mercy." Every studio smiled, shook my hand, and said, "We'll call you." None did. I'd been erased. At night, I drove past Patchwork and saw a silhouette in the booth. Same stance, same stillness. Perfect imitation. Never human, never wrong. Months later, a showcase I helped build announced new headliners. Kesha and G, the rebirth session. That night, I packed my life into a trunk and left. The highway stretched out like magnetic tape. Billboards flashed his new face. Gucci Mane, the rebirth experience. Tagline, "He's better than ever." The radio hissed, tapping out a rhythm only ghosts remember. 2 short, 1 long. By dawn, I stopped at a gas station. His video played silently on the TV above the counter. "Crazy comeback, huh?" the clerk said. "Yeah," I answered. "Crazy." Outside, his reflection rippled in a puddle, breaking every time the wind moved. Somewhere, that perfect voice still echoed. Fans cheered for a man who wasn't one anymore. The truth was simpler, crueler. He never came back, and the world applauded. Drop your thoughts.
First off, shout out to Unseen Harvest for that, man. But that was a little story of a testimony from somebody that used to produce Gucci Mane. And in his perspective, he basically was comparing the way Gucci Mane worked before and after he went to prison. So to me, I believe it because I do music. So certain little things that he was saying that I know about as far as music. It just made me think like, oh, all right, this is a fact. I know what he's saying on this part. But I know a lot of people gonna say, oh, it's not true. But hey, I'm not here to argue with nobody. I actually want y'all to put what y'all believe down in the comments. Do you believe that that story was true or not? And furthermore, it goes just to show that Keisha K.O. is behind this. Keisha K.O. runs every aspect of the Gucci Man we see today. So that means that if there is a Gucci Man or a 1017 curse and people are being subjected to being unalived or prison time after they leave the label, and like we seen with PoohShiesty's case, that Gucci Man is one of the people that's writing the statements. And I don't know if we do research into the other people that went to jail, like Fujiano. I don't know if people even remember Fujiano because he's been in jail so long. It's another 1017 artist. See, I don't know if people start to do their research and dig and go in these rabbit holes where they find out that Gucci is the reason behind most of these arrests and investigations. And furthermore, that means if that is true, then Keisha K.O. will be the one that's putting Gucci up to do this stuff. She's actually the one that's going ahead with all of these actions, because we can see from the last video that basically Gucci isn't even in control of himself or none of the decisions that he made. And that's my reason of why I believe that Keisha K.O. and Gucci Man is behind the 1017 curse. Like I said, I don't know all the details behind every situation of every artist that been subjected to the curse, but it's just looking like that it's not no divine intervention. I feel like the effects of this curse is not coming from the spiritual realm. I feel like it's a human forcing these acts, and I think Keisha K.O. is the mastermind behind it. Now, I don't want to go too far into that, but if you want to see me make more videos or dive deeper, leave a comment down below. And if you made it to this far in the video, hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, and welcome to the channel. Please don't forget to hit the notification bell so you can be notified as soon as I drop another video. Also, contact me on the socials, and you know, you can always suggest what you would like to watch or send me some clips or what you want to see me show on here, and I'll shout you out. I appreciate everybody for tuning in and supporting the channel and supporting the website, and I'm gonna see y'all next time. It's been another episode of TayWizzle TV. I love y'all. See y'all later, and thanks for watching.
She didn't have to call me out. We were nothing.